Well, I hate to do it. I hate to do it, but I'm going to call you to order here. First question, how many of you had a chance to continue that conversation during the break time? Thanks. That's terrific, and I hope that you'll approach the rest of the week with that same spirit. And make sure that you're talking with folks who you haven't met yet. There's a great group of people here. I know we'll have some folks coming in and out throughout the week, but this is really our core group that'll be with us. I've got some announcements I'm going to make at the end before we head out to lunch, but Monica did a great job of giving a little bit of a sense of Braver Angels, and we've invited them to come and run a fishbowl exercise for you. So I'm going to turn things over to Linda here so you can see things in action today.
Thank you. All right, you heard some from Monica Guzman this morning, but I want to let you know again that Braver Angels is a nonprofit with a mission to unite America by bringing people together who differ politically to create better understanding and find common ground when it exists. Braver Angels is meeting its mission. We're meeting our mission by having workshops like this fishbowl workshop, but we also have online workshops and live workshops across the country. We offer skill-building workshops like Skills for Bridging the Divide that provide tips on how to have difficult conversations across differences. We have a workshop called Depolarizing Within, so you can depolarize yourself and your own party. You know what happens when we all get together, right? In addition, we have Braver Angels debates. There will be one this afternoon happening here. And we have local alliances that put on local events. And I just want to acknowledge Tom Daly and Bill Altmaier, who are the Western North Carolina co-chairs of our alliance. So welcome, everybody. My name is Linda Block, and I'm going to be your moderator for today's program. Our goals for today are the following. We're going to learn about experiences, feelings, and beliefs, or values, of those on the other side of the political divide. Discover areas of commonality in addition to the differences, and there will be some, and gain insights that might be helpful to yourself and others in helping depolarize our community and ultimately the nation. So, in brief, the goals are gain more understanding, seeing if there's anything in common, and learning something that might help the community. In preparing for this, I actually spoke with Kirk, who is the executive director and co-founder of Ideas Fest. Yay, Kirk. And he said the overall goal of Ideas Fest was to expose people to a variety of perspectives on big topics that matter and generate civil discourse. Well, I think this activity is going to be great, will set the stage for what's to come in this conference. Just for perspective, the activity we're going to do today is called a fishbowl. It usually is part of a longer 3 to 6 hour workshop. Typically, before we ever get to the fishbowl, folks are doing an activity around stereotypes. What are the stereotypes that the other side has about us? What's wrong, what's false about those stereotypes? And then, what's actually true about those stereotypes? So after they have that exchange and that time to get to know each other better, then we bring in the fishbowl. And they usually don't know what questions are coming. But today, they do know what questions are coming because they're on stage in front of you all. So it's a little different than what we would normally do. But I think it'll give you a taste of the Braver Angels activities. So let's do introductions. And we are going to keep introductions to about 30 seconds apiece. We're going to move it along, and we're going to alternate who introduces themselves. So I'm going to start with you, and I'm going to ask that you share just your name, where you live now, whether you're red or blue, and briefly why you accepted the invitation to come here today.
My name is Don Brannon. I live in Asheville. I am an unaffiliated fiscal conservative. I'm here because this country needs a change in direction, and I'm hoping that we can all recognize how we need to change and work together for that change, be you red, blue, unlabeled, that we're all citizens of the U.S., and the U.S. needs help.
Thank you. Thank you. If you would go next.
I'm Bill Klontz. I live here in Asheville. Like our first moderator, I couldn't get the hang of retiring. I retired from the Army and then I retired from business. I'm about to get the hang of it here now. I'm here as a blue, and I'm here for a reason we heard in the first hour. I've spent some time in other countries where large groups of people or whole countries have lost the ability to talk to each other. And you get to a certain point that's not recoverable. I'd like for us not to do that, so I'm hoping we can all help a little bit with that today.
Thank you. And maybe you could stand up, because if you wouldn't mind, you're in the back there.
Goodness. Okay.
If you're comfortable doing
Hi,
that.
I'm Laura Godfrey, and I live at Deerfield, so here in Asheville. And I am a blue, and I kind of had my arm twisted to come, but I am a strong conservative Christian and strongly believe in the policies that the Christians believe, and I believe our founding fathers believed in, so that's why I'm here.
So you said you were a blue. Did you mean you were a red?
Oh, I'm a red.
Just thought so. Thank you. Thank you.
Never think of blues and reds.
Hey, would you?
Hey y'all, my name is Kristen Robinson. I'm born and raised right here in Western North Carolina, but I live in Weaverville. I'm of course a blue, and the reason I wanted to be here today is so I can give the perspective from a younger generation on kind of what politics is today, and help move, our country going forward in the right direction.
Thank you.
I'm Judy Durant. I have lived in Asheville for 9 years, and I've lived in Western North Carolina for 25 years. I am a red, even though I can see you get mixed up on red and blue, and blue does happen to be my favorite color, not red, but I decided to celebrate both today, red and blue, and the reason I'm here is because I feel like the conservative views need to be told. I've been a conservative almost since birth, I believe, and I've never wavered in my conviction to conservative principles.
My name is Bill Jameson. I too live in Asheville. We moved here from Arizona in 1995. Live in Deerfield, like a few other people up here. I'm here because I'm really deeply concerned about our ability as Americans to govern. Our government is simply not working. And I think there are reasons for that, some of which I'll share when it comes my turn to talk. I'm also here because Tom Daly asked me to be.
Thank you.
My name's Jerry Hunziker. I've lived in Transylvania County for about 31 years. Brought 3 of 5 of our children down here, one of which this is his alma mater. Yeah. So it's rather interesting there. He doesn't know I'm here. But anyway, I backed most of what everybody said here. And it wasn't just not exclusively red. I'm red if it doesn't stand out. However, again, we as a country, my interest is in young people. I mean, pardon me. So again, I hope that things go well here, and we certainly want to communicate. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly.
My name is Matt Balance. I live in Hendersonville. I'm on the blue side. I'm here because I have previous experience on both advocacy work from a nonpartisan level, but also from a leadership standpoint from a party perspective, so on a partisan level. And having been on both sides, I've seen the issues that come across or that we have in terms of polarization, and I was very intrigued with being part of this, and I'm hoping for a good dialogue today.
Awesome. Thank you all. And my name is Linda Block. I live in Fairview, North Carolina, so just a few minutes from here. And I've been trained by Braver Angels to moderate workshops. And what brought me here is that I've done a lot of work in mediation. And I've had been privy to many difficult conversations, and I really see the power of those difficult conversations for the listener to feel heard, for the speaker to feel heard, for the listener to gain understanding. And so I just believe in the power of conversations, and so that's what brings me here. All right, so some ground rules. We're here to understand others, and I'm going to ask for your agreement on these. We're here to understand others and to explain our views. But, this is important, not to convince anyone to change their mind. That is not the goal. Do I have agreement from you about that ground rule?
Yes.
Awesome. So the idea of not convincing anyone to change their mind is really crucial for the activity. Okay, let's each speak for ourselves and not speak for or represent any other group. Do I have your agreement on that?
Yes.
Awesome. Please stick to the spirit of the activity. So if, for example, the question is what we each learned from listening to each other, that's the only thing we're going to talk about, what we learned from listening to each other, and refrain from maybe sharing our political viewpoints. Everyone all right with that? Mm-hmm. And otherwise, it's normal stuff. Take turns, wait for folks to finish, be respectful, try not to use body language like eye rolling or big sighs, anything like that. In other words, bring your best self to the conversation. Agreement about that?
Yes.
All right. And then do I, as your facilitator, have permission to gently guide you back onto those guidelines if you should go astray?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
All right. So I may do that from time to time. I'm also going to help with time management as best I can. And so, I'll do my best. All of you, we're happy. I'm happy you're here. We're happy you're here. You're not going to actually participate in the fishbowl per se, but we're hoping that you are going to be active listeners, take notes as the activity goes along, and then toward the end, we're going to have a chance to have you pair up and to share. The folks on stage will share first, but then you'll share as well. So you'll have a chance to participate in that way. And I will ask that during the fishbowl part, you also remain quiet as the observers. All right, now specifically for the fishbowl activity, I want to give some guidelines and explain how it's going to work. So we flipped a coin before we came out here to figure out who was going to be inside the fishbowl first. So this inner circle is going to make itself tightly, a little bit more circular, and they're going to be the fishbowl, and the blues are going to be in the fishbowl first. The outside group, in this case the reds right now, they're going to be the observers. So the folks on the inside are going to have two questions to answer. The folks on the outside are going to be just listening. You all out here are what I'm going to call the super observers, because you're observing the whole thing. And the real work is really done by those of you who are observing, because your task is to listen and to learn something about how the other side sees themselves and whether you can find something in common with them. After the fishbowl, again, we're going to ask you to reflect silently, and then pair up, and then share. All right. So the fishbowl, there's a lot of rules in this game. The fishbowl ground rules. So as a group, you're going to answer two questions, one question at a time. Please address your comments only to those in the fishbowl. So if you're in the inner circle, just talking amongst yourselves. Focus on your own position and let others describe theirs. Don't speak to your side or attempt to speak for others. For example, I wouldn't say all Republicans think or all Democrats believe. Okay, so just what your own perspective is. And then also when you're in the fishbowl, speaking from your own perspective or position and not the other side, so avoiding things like, well, unlike the other side, my side believes in responsible government. Because that's going to make it very hard for other people to listen to you. So stick to your own perspective. Those of you on the outside, the listeners and the observers, please stay quiet, refrain from any kind of physical expression of what's going on for you. Your only task is to be a silent observer and to listen. Listen for commonalities between your perspectives and theirs. And while you're listening, I encourage you to pay attention to the emotions that come up for you. I'm sure there might be some. Try to manage those as best you can while you're also learning. Okay, I want to tell you the 2 questions we're going to discuss in the fishbowl today. Number 1, why do you think your side's values and policies are good for the country? And the second question, what are your reservations or concerns about your own side? Okay? We'll have 9 minutes for each of those questions, so 18 minutes per group. Then we're going to switch circles, and there should be plenty of time for everyone to be part of that. So let's go ahead and create our little fishbowl here. I'm going to move myself over here. And maybe you can angle in just a tad bit there. Oh. And just in case. All right. Are you all ready?
Yes. So.
Great. All right. So, why do you think that your side's values and policies are good for the country? And anyone can start.
I'll jump in if you don't mind.
All right.
I'm gonna waste 10 seconds. To me, it's interesting we're doing this on June 14th. This is Flag Day, a day to reflect on what the country means. And it's the 248th birthday of the Army, so the place that defends this stuff.
Happy birthday, Bill.
Good, yeah, good time in here. I'd say, in my perspective, the progressive view is good for the country for 3 reasons. One, we've got a view that the country's never finished. We've got work to do, and to the extent we can recognize that some people don't start off on the starting line the same place we do, and we can help them get to a place they can make their own lives better, that's a good thing. You look at the legislation that we've supported and primarily been the drivers for. Women's right to vote, child labor laws, which interestingly enough seem to be a conversation again, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, job safety, most of the environmental laws, civil rights laws, that all comes from that perspective. Secondly, I think we have a view of the government, or at least I do, that says government has an important role in all that. It doesn't do it all, but it has the job to be a referee and to keep the score and see how it's going. Things like capitalism, market forces, individual liberty have been incredibly important for this country. But like all human endeavors, if you don't have a little check and balance or some oversight or the ability to check it, they all tend to run off the road. It happens everywhere. And I think government has a role to do that. And the third and final one I'd mention here that I think is a healthy thing that I try to do as a progressive, that says I look at a balanced view of our history. I can love this country. It's a great country. I love what we've done. I love what we try to do. But I'm not ashamed to say we've fallen short in some areas. We've got to call it out. We've got to fix it. To me, you criticize something because you think it can be fixed. That's what I want to do. If you're telling me it's any criticism of my government is as an attack on my government, that's not love of country. That's infatuation. And you're not going to fix anything that way. We ought to be big enough to say we have capacity to do more and better. Let's do that.
Thank you. Any comments about that, or you want to?
Yeah, is it okay to just say ditto and pass?
Yeah.
You know, I do agree with almost all of what, in fact, all of what Bill just said. I find my own personal philosophy of governance and social is more at home in the blue side, because I think that when we look at how government can help ensure clean air, that people can breathe clean air, people can drink clean water, that neighborhoods are safe for children, that everybody has nutrition, health care, equality, and seeking education. That's good for my grandchildren, but it's also good for the country. When a large portion of our country are children who are growing up in violent neighborhoods and not able to afford any kind of nutrition, and their parents aren't able to get health care, that is bad for the country. It drags the economy down. We're losing a whole generation of young people who could become leaders. And finally, I will say that my passion in life right now is my grandchildren and their grandchildren. I want to do something today that is going to enhance the physical and emotional and social environment in this world for my grandchildren's grandchildren, for you. And that I find that on the blue side, those are issues that get labeled as liberal, and we get labeled as liberals, and people forget them. They just, it doesn't become part of public policy. So that's why I'm a blue. That's why I think the blue is good for the country. It brings people who are forgotten and living in the shadows of life, as Hubert Humphrey said, it brings them into the sun and gives them an opportunity. When a person who is poor and receiving public assistance is lifted up, gets the education, finds a good job, not only is that good for them and good for their children, it's good for the country and the economy, because they're now paying. I worked in public welfare most of my life, and I have not met any recipients of public welfare who were ripping the system off. They all desperately wanted the same things I wanted for my children.
Okay, thank you.
I hate to sound like a broken record, but I mean, kind of like both Bill and Bill said, I completely agree with everything they've said. In terms of what Bill said originally, we have, or the blue side or the blue perspective seems to be, to me, it's always been an issue of progress and moving forward, moving the country forward, moving individuals forward. Me personally, I come from a family who, our background over generations, we've been helped by programs that some would say would fall under the blue side, whether that's New Deal programs earlier in the 20th century that helped very low income and rural members of my family in eastern North Carolina and in the western part of the state as well to find jobs and opportunity, all the way up through myself in terms of educational grants that I've used in my life that are things that I think are promoted from a standpoint of moving the country forward, progress, and that, to me, in my perspective, is what our side is about. So.
Thank you very much.
And I, of course, agree. For me, the blue side, the thing that made me want to get involved with politics was the equality aspect of it, right? In 2018, I joined the Young Democrats of North Carolina as the LGBTQ caucus chair. It was the group that was fighting for equality. And in the Constitution, all men are created equal, right? And to me, that's the most important part of this. I want to make sure that everybody has the chance to grow up and get a good job, grow up to have a healthy life, and be able to grow up, period. We have a lot of, people that end their lives too early because of the way, the world treats them. And to me, our side is, supporting that. And we want to make sure that people have those healthy and sustainable lives. And also the environment, right? I think I'm the youngest person up here on the stage, and all of the policy and consequences my generation is going to see, and we're the ones who have to end up dealing with them. And that's why, young people standing up and doing something about it, I think, is super important. And I think the blue side supports that, right? We have, the youngest state party chair right now in the country, a 25-year-old Anderson Clayton. And to me, that just shows that Democrats do care, and they do want to see us have that power and have that control and make sure that we're leading the country in a forward-thinking way and making sure that everybody has that equal chance at life.
Thank you. I hear a lot of interest in the future of our country from everyone here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to move us on to our second question, which I find very interesting, and that is, what are your reservations or concerns about your own side? What are your reservations or concerns about your own side?
I can start with, I think one of the things is we like to purity test a lot of people, right? If we don't agree with them on everything, then we don't think they're on our side and they don't support our complete goal. And I think we as Democrats have to look at the bigger picture sometimes and not nitpick every little policy choice of folks, if that makes sense. I feel like a lot of times we like to dig at our own instead of coming together and helping move things forward.
Do you have an example of something that's come up for you? Or you've seen
Well, a lot of thing also is it's generational, right? Again, I just talked about us having the youngest state party chair, but that was a fight, right? It was not an easy battle because a lot of the older generation, they've done things their way, right? They see it as it's worked for them in the past. And a lot of younger folks are looking at it, and we're looking at the situation that we're in right now, and we're like, it's not working. So trying to bridge the gap of some of that generational divide. And I think that that's something I've been trying to work on, and I think folks on the stage are as well, is coming together and helping. You know, I have things to learn from Bill, Bill has things to learn from me. And I think being able to work towards that is what we kind of need to do, continue moving forward as a party.
Mm-hmm.
I think my party, Blue, tends to lose focus on the fact that the ultimate goal, regardless of what our left-right philosophies are, the ultimate goal is to be able to govern. We live in a country where, I mean, it's really it's amazing. 51% of the members, of the leaders of the House are Reds, 51% of the Senate are Blues. The Blues have the presidency, the Reds have the court. And so we get nowhere if all we do is dig our feet into the ground, our heels into the ground. Democracy does not mean majority rule. It means finding common ground. It means seeking common good. And my biggest fear about my party is that the left wing of our party, and I agree almost totally with their agenda, but they lose sight of the fact that the role is governing. And when you have this kind of a split, and particularly in a democracy, you have to be able to sit down and compromise. You have to find common ground.
So your criticism is that our party, the Blue Party, tends to dig their heels into the ground. Is that what you are?
Well, it's actually more substantive in my mind than that. It's that they need to understand that the role is to build common ground that you can govern on. That everything that I would like to see in this country is not going to happen. But it's going to be better if I can sit down with other people like the folks who are up next and say, where can we agree? How can we build issues around poverty, for instance? How can we find a solution? Barry Goldwater said once that he and Hubert Humphrey sat on the opposite sides of the aisle arguing all day. But then he would go pick up his wife, Peggy, and Humphrey would pick up his wife, and they'd go out to dinner together. They liked each other because they shared a common goal. He said, Jameson, take your business, poverty. Hubert and I agree that the level of poverty in this country is unsustainable and is a national embarrassment. I thought the way to fix it is the private sector. He thought the way to fix it was government. So we came up with food stamps. A good solution to the public-private solution. And it's because they went out to dinner together. They talked together and they shared a vision.
I'll tack on a bit of that if I could. I seem to be stuck in threes there. I've got three things that bothers me about what I call our side here. One's a lack of persistence. I was a precinct chair for a few years. Boy, in a presidential election year, I have no trouble getting volunteers and people to show up. That goes to less than half on the midterms. And between the elections, the number of people who are willing to show up and do stuff, I could put in a 9-passenger van and have room left over. So we're not persistent in staying engaged on the issues. Second thing, we don't integrate at the different levels very well. There are Blues who work things at the national level, some at the state, some at the local issue, but they don't do very well. You look at the Koch brothers of the Federalist Society, that's a good model of how you do that. I mean, they really worked at it, they've integrated their efforts, and they got some results to show for it. So that's something I think we can learn. The last one kind of gets to something Bill was saying here. I think sometimes we all forget any policy solution you think you come up with is going to have some pros and cons. It's going to have some costs and some benefits, no matter how good it is. And on our side, you know, for example, we may come up with a social justice program. It sounds great. It'll really be the answer for a problem. But if it turns out you can't administer it, or you can't afford it, or it didn't work, sometimes we have a hard time saying, you know, it was a good thought, but we got to find something else that works here. I think all parties are guilty of that, but we as much as anybody else.
And I'm curious, when you said that the different levels of government are not
Yeah.
working together, do you have a specific example or something?
Yeah, well, I was just thinking, here's a good example. It's not so much government, but at the levels of government, citizen participation. I have no trouble getting 100 people to write a letter to their congressman. Getting 5 people to go to the school board meeting is a lot harder. And I would submit to you, the closer government is, the more it affects your daily lives. We need to think this one is just as important as that one. We need to show up regularly.
So there's a stereotype that has somewhat been capitalized on the blue side, and that's that we're elitist, that we're overeducated, that we're snobbish, that we look down our nose at people, and that we're dismissive. And I think that, this is my personal opinion, that we have in ways played hook, line, and sinker into that at times, and have given full ammunition for people to feel that way. In turn, because of that, we have lost people, not people as members of a party per se, but we've lost their attention. We've lost their ear to hearing what we have to say on solutions that we might have to better their lives or to better the country, especially if you're looking at rural areas in our country. That is an issue and a situation that has cost the blue side greatly, in my opinion. But a lot of that goes back to something that Monica said in the previous talk about hearing. I think that the blue side, we do a very good job of talking at people at times, but if you're in politics, that's kind of something you do. You talk at people a lot, but we have to do a much better job of hearing what the issues are of individuals, especially in rural areas, in areas or populations where we have lost that support for the blue ideals. We have to hear what the issues and concerns and the fears of those people are, or we're never going to make any strides with those individuals. And just to go to something that Bill said, I'm working in threes as well. I'm following his lead. He talked about trying to get people involved, but I also think something along with that is, on our side, we have a very big problem with looking at things either long game. If you look at other sides, they do a very good job of looking at things 20, 30 years down the road. We tend to look at things, I know I'm not supposed to say we, I'm sorry. I feel that the blue side has a very a propensity for looking at things cycle to cycle, being knee-jerk, and not playing checkers when other people are playing chess. And that is something that is problematic to me as well.
Awesome. We'd have just a little more time. Is there anything else you would like to share, again, about reservations or concerns?
Yeah, I echo, what everyone said up here. I feel like I have more hope than I do reservations, I think is why it's hard for me to sit here and think of things, because I do look at it with an optimistic viewpoint, because I'm surrounded by young people who want to be motivated to make this country and this party better. Like that is what our goal is. That is why we're here. And I'm thankful to be around those people and to have folks that want to move everything forward and want to go knock doors and talk to your neighbors and sit there and listen to folks and say, what is bothering you? I think we just need to do more of that is really what it is. And it's convincing folks, like you said, at the top level to do it, right? Like your town council, your county commissioners, you can speak to them, right? But is your congressperson going to be available at that level to, communicate with you and to feel like you're heard? So yeah, that is a big point of just hearing folks, hearing them out. And making sure that we're representing them in whatever capacity that is.
Great. Thank you. Let's thank the inner circle. All right, so we're going to change positions here. Thank you all observers. I know it can be hard sometimes to hear other people's opinions, and so I appreciate everyone's attentiveness. Yeah, you can bring your waters with you. And I will flip this back over. right, welcome to the Inner Circle. Let me restart my time here. All right. So again, our first question for you all, why do you think your side's values and policies are good for the country? And anyone can start.
I'll start.
All right.
Well, team, why don't we start the conversation with a word about why us four conservatives came to this fishbowl. We can add a little bit more time to what we discussed earlier. Then we can move the conversation to discuss 4 principles of conservatism.
And you're speaking from your own perspective here?
Yes.
Okay.
The brutal and senseless tribal warfare for power between the 2 political parties is a defining problem in America today. Congress has been dysfunctional for years. This cannot continue. In my view, something has to change. America is in decline. The whole world knows this. The systematic analytical treatment of this is found in Ray Dalio's recent book entitled Principles for Dealing with the Changing World Order: Why Nations Succeed and Fail. Dalio lays out what happens to nation empires since the year 600. No nation empire has stayed dominant for more than 150, 200 years. The U.S. is following the same rise and fall cycle with the same common parameters. Dalio lays out a credible case that China will overtake the U.S. economically and militarily, possibly within a decade. Blues, reds, independents, unaffiliated must come together to work on this, to change this trajectory. We need to get back to basic conservative principles upon which nation was founded and which allowed it to prosper.
Thank you.
Now let's look at some principles that we think, I think,
Let's have some others share, and then we can come back.
as soon as we lay out a principle, then we'll all share in that principle. First principle, fidelity to the Constitution. The Constitution is not a living document in the sense that a president or a Congress or a judges can interpret articles and amendments in an activist manner or rule by executive order. Each citizen has, under the Articles of the Constitution, the rights of freedom to produce profit from their labors.
Okay, I am going to stop you here because I want to make sure everyone gets a chance to share. So I hear that that's a principle that's important to you. Can some others share, please?
My first principle for being a Republican is because I believe in their policies most aligned with my Christian values. I'm pro-life, pro-God. I believe that every life has a divine value, was created by God for a purpose. And my desire is for everyone that is born into this world to find their purpose. I'm a social conservative. I believe in the protection of family values. I believe in parental rights. I believe in school choice with vouchers. But most importantly, I just feel like our nation was founded on these principles, and I feel like we have lost them.
Thanks.
Well, I'm a conservative because I honor the Constitution. I believe that our forefathers were well aware of the pitfalls of man. Man is greedy and man loves power. We're born this way. And they took this into account when they wrote the Constitution. They wrote with a balanced system of government, checks and balances, so that one system of government, one branch does not overstep its duties. And we need to stick to this. We do not need an overreaching executive branch with an agenda. We need to follow the laws of the land and the Constitution. I believe that government is the worst way of getting something done. I agree there are certain things government must do, but if you want to see government, if you want to see your money, your taxpayer dollars wasted, you're going to give it to government bureaucrats. They do not have an incentive to save money, and they don't have an incentive even to get the job done. I worked as a subcontractor for the government, and I saw this. Government bureaucrats really are there for the life. They're not there to get the job done. How can we best get the job done and serve the needs of the people? And I firmly believe that free enterprise is the way to get this job done. Free enterprise is colorblind. It doesn't look at the background of somebody. It doesn't believe in privilege. Free enterprise instead rewards people for doing a good, efficient job effectively. And there's nothing better for the country or better for the individual than being rewarded for doing a good job. I'm a conservative because I believe less government control, the better.
I'm a conservative. I have Christian principles, which I'm very proud of. However, I don't try to impose my beliefs on others. If the opportunity is given, I will. But bottom line, with my greatest concern, over the years in Transylvania County, I've fought for youth. I've fought for youth to get opportunities for jobs. And unfortunately, the path of that community was just tourism, and there's nothing left for the youth that want to work and work hard. The opportunities that are being missed with, and the anxiety that's being built up right now by the LGBTQ, and you go on, is really affecting, when you start addressing this to young people in schools, it's affecting their confidence, it's affecting their, whether I'm too white or I'm too black. And in this country, there are, because of our country, there's mixes of let's say, being Italian and being Polish, being black and being white. I have an adopted child from Liberia who came here legally, and he has succeeded very well as his wife that happened to come from Liberia. But that's because of opportunity and effort, and they never learned how to take advantage of the government. That's never been on they've never been trained that way. They knew, and I contributed to it, I'm sure, they knew that hard work should give reward, as has been expressed. So again, I'm concerned most for the youth. I believe that the points presented, even on the other side, we are interested in the people, but somehow our approach to helping them is different. You know, if you get to, something came up earlier, if you get to a point where, please don't feed the animals. Please don't feed the animals because they won't know how to take care of themselves. And this is the same thing if you do this with your people. You make it too easy on welfare that you're going to get benefits even though you don't know the father, or the father comes back and shares the benefit from the government providing. Again, that's a direction of failure.
Second principle we want to address, and a big one for me, fidelity to the principles of fiscal responsibility. Regular order requires debate of the 12 appropriation bills in Congress, not the use of a huge, unread, continuing resolution omnibus bill to bloat spending with no debate. This country is now $41 trillion in debt. We just added four more trillion. It will go to $50 trillion within 10 years. We pay $600 billion a year interest on that debt currently, projected to go to $1 trillion not that far in the future.
So I'm just going to interrupt. So you're saying that fiscal responsibility is an important value for your side and what you think is they're doing well. Is that what I hear?
I didn't say it was doing well. That is why
It's an important
that's
value.
why I'm unaffiliated as a fiscal conservative.
Well, that-
Nobody is doing well at this point, in my view.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt because we're going to switch to the second question.
Okay?
All right, and this might actually feed into what you want to share.
Yeah.
So again, the second question, what are your reservations and concerns about your own side?
I think right now the pendulum has swung so far to the left that if the Republican Party did get in office, they would end up swinging too far to the right, and then it would just disenfranchise half the party. So that would be my own issue. I think there's got to be a middle ground. I mean, I listened to the blue side, and all the things they said, I agree with. But I agree with them maybe going in a little different way, like not as much welfare, but other opportunities, opportunities for jobs, opportunities to work. I believe in a hours day work for an hours day wage, that everybody has that right. And I just feel like sometimes it's easier just to sit back and let other people take care of you. I don't think that benefits. I think it's a detriment to our nation.
What we're talking here is that on our side, and maybe this is both sides, I think lobbying should be illegal. It should be run by the country and not bought by Pfizer or any other group.
Is that something your party is doing?
All
You
of
would like
that-
to see it do differently?
I would say it should be done differently.
Okay.
They're not doing any more correctly than, if you want to say, the other side. Term limits is, boy, because without term limits, it's like one time I worked at a company and I was going to invest in stock of that company. It happened to be Alcoa. I was working for him, and the president of my division said, I told him I was going to invest. He says, please don't, because they'll believe that you had advanced knowledge on what's about to happen. And he told me what was about to happen then. My point is I lost an opportunity because I didn't want to make my boss look bad. But yet in Congress, they have inside information all the time, whether they deny it or not. And as a result, they go in there maybe having a value of on their property of $500,000. Within years, that they're multimillionaires. And gee, how does that work? And because they aren't producing anything. There's someone who is a private enterprise. He should be rewarded for his effort. That's why it shouldn't be discouraged. And in some areas, that's why it shouldn't be overruled, meaning so many rules out there, they've gotten so severe, and they don't get rid of any. And personally, I've fought 4 different government agencies, and I've won in every one of them. But it was very difficult, and I got marked. As a result of it, I could tell you stories, but point is that again, whether on our side or any side, when you get too big, too powerful, you seem to lose track of what you're there for. They should be there representing us, and Republican or Democrat, you'll get the initial sense they're doing that, but then you see the results, you say, gee, that's not what they promised.
My comment would be civility in government. That goes for the red side, blue side. We now have politicians that seemingly are scoring points for their silo, not for the good of the country. If they had to live together side by side, I think they would have a different attitude towards each other. So I think all politicians should have to live in Washington, D.C. Their kids go to the same schools. They learn how to live together, then hopefully they will legislate together. Civility is something we need in both parties.
And have dinner together afterwards.
Well, I believe that our Republicans are falling down when it comes to educating the people on what we really believe in. People see Republicans as being out for profit. We're not out for profit. We're out for the best good, for the largest number of people in the country. We feel, though, that people can make their mark in America by working, by seeing the benefits of work, not by putting the power into the hands of government. Government, look what they do. The longer someone's in government, the more rules they make up. They're going to one day, if it's not stopped, they're going to one day tell you what to eat, and they do some of that now in certain governments, what appliance to cook on. They're going to tell you about your children's system of education, what they should study in school. They're going to tell you where to work, and they're going to tell you what doctor you should go to, you should be allowed to go to, what surgeries you should be allowed to have, what treatments.
Now, is that a criticism of your own side?
Pardon me?
Is that a criticism of your own
Yes,
side?
we've
Okay.
got to educate people as to what can happen when government is allowed to rule our lives.
Problem-solving mechanisms. Rather than standing on the floor of Congress before an empty auditorium just to get a recording for a soundbite for a TV program, the sides need to come together. There ought to be some, even in the Republican Party, there ought to be some sense of unity, some sense of working together, rather than one extreme and moderates, and moderates have become a lost generation apparently, both parties. They need to figure out how industry works to solve problems, how academia works to solve problems, and rather than simply saying, we're going to get more votes, to sit down, figure out, well, what is the problem, what are the solutions, how do we come together? And the Republicans need that as well as other people.
Yeah, but you're speaking just for your own side, of course.
Yes.
Thank you. There's just about 3/4 of a minute left. Any other?
Well, back to the anxieties and the things that are changing. I'm really hung on this LGBTQ issue, is that no one seems to be standing up for women's rights. Due to some of the things that are occurring, is that, was it Title IX? You might as well trash it. Women are losing, they're being treated as second-class citizens more than they ever have before. And again, the Republicans aren't standing up. The women's libs groups aren't standing up as to some of the values that should be important to everyone. So it's not specific to us. There's just too many people not paying attention to the things that are resulting from what's occurring.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Let's thank you, the inner circle. All right, and you all can stay in this position for now. All right, we're going to take some time for just some personal reflection. And then we're going to talk about what you learned about how the other side sees themselves and if you discovered anything in common. And that's the only question on the table right now. It's not more of your own views or your reactions to the other side's positions. So again, the question is, what did you learn about how people on the other side see themselves? And did you find anything in common? So I'm going to start just with 2 minutes of a silent reflection. If you want to write some things down, that's fine, to compose your thoughts. Everyone is encouraged to participate in this. We're going to then pair up and talk to another person about your thoughts. And then these two circles here on stage will share out to you, and then you all will have a chance to share out to us. All right, so 2 minutes just to get your thoughts together. What did you learn about how people on the other side see themselves? Did you find anything in common? Yeah, no, you're just kind of, you may have done it already, you know, right there. I'll just have a chance to get it. A few more seconds. All right, so now I am going to ask the folks on stage to pair up with someone from the other party. If possible, just for the camera's sake, if you could try not to put your back to the audience. The camera folks would be appreciative of that. So go ahead and rearrange your chairs. And you in the audience, ideally you can pair up with someone of the opposite political party, but we have no idea who's in the room. And so I'm just going to suggest that you try to pair up with someone you don't know very well. So maybe turn around to someone you didn't come with, and share, again, what you learned about how other people on the other side see themselves and commonalities. You're about halfway through your time. You're about halfway through your time.
almost like we have it as a film.
I mean, good luck how you do that. You're asking the guys who get money from the lobby.
How do you make it just input of information?
So expensive to run for office now. They're just going to do it. I talked to members at a house. They spend about half their time covering it. That's the only way they get.
One more minute, please. One more minute.
Business doesn't necessarily do stuff. Sometimes they do it. I mean, for me, I have to be expensive because of this. We spend more than that than anybody else that has a worse number.
That's the point of
This is
it,
two different
right?
franchises. I noticed when I go to my doctor's office, half the average space for file cabinets goes in $50. That doesn't make any sense.
No, I have many friends that are the same way, and then I have friends, now that have problems, right? And I'm 27 years old, so having my friends who start putting their kids in preschool and kindergarten, seeing how, right, that's when public policy really starts to affect people. And it's interesting to see my friends navigate that, right?
I hate having to be the bad guy to cut you off. I don't know what. I not working. Hello. I need to cut you off. All right. I hate to interrupt the wonderful conversations that I know you all were having, but we have such a small time, and I hope you continue those conversations as the days go on. So now what we're going to do is share more popcorn style, first from the folks up here on stage, and then from all of you with that same question. So who would like to start to share something you learned about how the other side sees themselves and anything you saw in common? And again, that's the only question on the table right now. And we'll alternate reds and blues, so whoever wants to go first, then we'll alternate. Anyone want to share?
Yeah, we both agreed that.
We love each other.
Yeah, we're doing great over here. I think we both agreed that we want a government that empowers people and can move them forward. I just don't think we agree on what that way is, right? But having that common goal of just wanting people to feel better about themselves and do better in this world, I think is something we can start with. We both also agreed, that lobbying is bad, and that term limits can be a good thing, and that, we need more regular people working in or being elected to office. It is the normal man working for the normal man, right? And I think that's something that we both agreed on.
Or normal woman.
Or normal woman, yep. Or normal person.
So does a red want to share? Yeah. Laura, you were kind of in that group. Did you want to jump on that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with everything she said. And for both bills, I loved it. I loved the values of importance of projects to help the less fortunate. I really believe in that, but I believe that it's got to be giving them a job, a work to do. When you're going to college and you get a scholarship, you still have so many hours a week to work. I'm hearing some kids go, oh no, I get this money for this and this money for that. But I think it's important that they have to work for something. Just for
common?
Yeah, we both talked about empowering young people. And the other thing is, I think our job is to help people find their gifts, find what they're good at, and then empower them, help raise them up. And then I love Bill's having a passion for the next generation. Oh my gosh, I do too. And again, when we talked about it, it's like we're sharing the same kinds of values that we want. My one issue was I want all women to get those I don't know. I think what's happened is because of media or whatever is just feeding us with the different sexual groups or racial groups or whatever, we're not going to come together if we do that. It has to be just mankind, lifting up mankind. I think the middle road or whatever, it just gets lost because there's too much on the right or too much on the left.
Blue, another blue?
I think there seems to be a common theme just from the comments that we just heard. And when the Reds were inside the fishbowl, I wrote down something that Jerry here said. And he made the comment, he said, both sides are interested in people, we just don't have the same approach. And I think that's something to very much keep aware of, is that, we have a tendency as people who are siloed off and tribalistic to, it was talked about in the first talk earlier that we tend to give bad intentions to the other side on what the reasons are for doing something. But at the end of the day, every person on this stage wants the best for the country. We just have different ways of looking at how to get there. And keeping sight of that seems to be, from what I can tell so far, something that is a common theme, that we're all interested in the same goal. We just don't have the same vehicle.
Thank you. One of the Reds like to share.
I think we tend to, because of the way society is set up and maybe the media, we tend to categorize people as we shouldn't. Okay, because of my level of education or experience, I'm going to look down on somebody that's digging a ditch. And the fact of the matter is, the most difficult thing, my wife is a teacher. I could tell you some stories there with regard to a 6-year-old child being upset and concerned because he didn't know if he was white or black, didn't know his black father and his mother abandoned. But my point here is that when you get to an educator, particularly at the lower levels, is significantly important. And that there should be some, I don't want to say better training to teachers. I don't know how to.
Jerry, is there something that you saw in common around that issue for you?
Yes, and with that is that, again, I sense that we want to help all, but it's how do we get to that, okay? And my point is how do we get to that? I think we need, I say, don't take this the wrong way, a better exposure or training or courses for our instructors to determine, I don't want to say the value of the students, but their strengths. I was not a good kid in class, okay, yet things ended up going extremely well. So just because I'm a bad kid doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be a bad person or when I get older. So the commonality is, again, everybody cares, okay? But how do we mesh that together, and how do we make our country stronger?
Okay.
I bet you were a good kid.
Thank you. So not everyone on stage had a chance to share in that quick sharing. However, I want to also make sure we have time to let you all share too. And so I'd like to open up there's 2 microphones out here on the floor. If anyone would like to share, again, some commonalities you saw or something you learned from listening to the other side, the microphones are open.
Hi, and thank you for that. I feel like I want to go a step back. So I'm not sure it's a commonality, but it might be. I think we've heard a couple times that we all do want the same things, but we have different paths to get there. And I feel like we actually have to go back and see if we really do want the same things. I feel like maybe 20 years ago or 30 years ago, that was more true. Now I'm not sure the pictures are actually the same, and maybe that's why the divide's there. So again, I'm looking for the commonality, but I feel like the pictures are actually different.
Did you hear anything from the other side that was
Yeah,
new for you? or-
Like trying to work, hearing the work, right? You want people to work. Yes, we want people to work. But I think that those pictures can look really different because of what if someone tries to get a job and they're in a minority and they just keep not getting chosen. So, I feel like that's.
So you're wanting more depth to that picture.
I want to understand to the picture because I think that's too easy of a. We all want the same thing. We just get there differently. I'm like, I don't know if we actually do want the same thing.
Okay.
So I guess I want deeper. That didn't help. I'm sorry.
I appreciate you thinking it out with us. Who else? Yes, come on up to a mic.
Sir, what's your name again? Yeah. Matt. Something Matt said that I really enjoyed was the thought of paying attention to smaller governments rather than only big ideas. And hearing that from someone who considers himself further to the left was a nice feeling.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
So I had some help with this with a Democrat, and I'm an independent. So polarization in government, I think there's commonality there. They don't see that as really advantageous. Term limits, that was also seemed to be common. Education of everybody, that also seemed to be common. Effective governance, and with that as a corollary, perhaps too many laws and regulations.
Thank you.
I'll make a statement.
Is it about commonalities and something about the other side that you learned?
Yes.
Okay.
No reaction to the Second Amendment. We kill each other more than almost any other nation. Where's the common perspective on the Second Amendment?
Okay, so you saw a difference.
I saw no reaction. That's my concern.
Okay.
I think that there was agreement, that there was commonality among everyone, that each of the participants want opportunities for youth, want a country that is more whole, where there is dialogue and people work together. I agree that there are different approaches to get to that overarching goal. I think a major difference is the role that government may play in terms of the environment, for instance. What is the role of government in terms of protecting us or providing certain encroachments against our own personal decisions? So where in truth does that lie? Does it go to a free market economy? You know, the issue with gas stoves, for instance. Should we just let the free market take care of that? And people are smart enough not to buy certain kinds of stoves that will pollute or cause asthma or whatever? Or does government need to step in? So I think that we really are divided on what role government should play in terms of providing opportunities and healing the nation and making us more whole.
And I don't think anybody on the stage would disagree with you on that. I think that we're probably all in agreement that there is a massive divide on what the role of government is. But to the point of a couple speakers now, that's a massive difference. But if you're looking at 30, 50,000 foot perspective, and if we're trying to look at trying to lessen polarization, we all have a goal. Now, granted, the first speaker talking about, about work and what I guess the definition of work would be and what the end game of that looks like. I agree with you on that. I think there's different takes on where that ends up. But I guess my point being that from a 50,000-foot perspective, we all want good for the country from their own perspective. Nobody up here is saying, we want this country to fail. We want this country to go down the tubes. Everybody wants the nation to succeed. Now, that doesn't take away from the fact that there are massive chasms between us on how to get there and what those vehicles are to get there. But at least, good Lord, at least we can look at the fact that we all want at least something good for the country and start there. So,
is there anyone else from on stage, again, that would like to share what you heard from the other side that was new for you, things you saw in common?
Yeah, I think in our conversation, we came out in a place where we agreed that part of the problem is we don't know each other as human beings. We know each other as categories. And when we sit down together to begin to try to solve something, we start at the extreme instead of starting in the middle. If we started in the middle, like the Goldwater story I told, and then worked out together, and we became a working team. But it takes, you know, I've met her a few times, but I don't know her until today. And there are lots of places that we could probably sit down and talk about. But there are lots of places we're going to disagree, but if we like each other and we agree with the integrity of the other, we're going to come up with some kind of a compromise.
Is there a red on stage that hasn't spoken yet that wants to say?
Well, I haven't spoken, but I think it's well said by you already and by the other people here on stage. We are different. Our parties are different. We have the same goal, which is to better the things for the people that it serves. And we go about it in very different ways. I don't believe the other side realizes the dangers of big government. And I believe our system does. But that's probably not supposed to be said.
All right, I'm going to...
We had another 30 minutes. We could have solved all
I really, really appreciate you all being willing to share up here. Let's give them a round of applause.